Well, I was at Moda Center for the Women's Portland Regional NCAA Tournament. I was sitting on press row. I was staring right at that blasted three-point line for several days, never noticed a damn thing. Our next guest is the person who noticed that the three-point lines were not equal or congruent or whatever the word is. Michael McGrath, who is an attorney locally. Michael joining us. He works at Gearing, Rackner, and McGrath. And I got to know, take us through your experience at Moda Center, Michael.
Well, it's a nice 15 seconds of fame, I suppose. Made my family's Easter Sunday, but I had thought about going to the game on Friday and never got around to it. I had something else to do Saturday, so I woke up on Sunday and said, all right, well, these are cheap enough, and I can ride my bike over there. It's a nice day. Check it out. So that's kind of how I got the tickets. It was not because I'm a real big fan of basketball or anything. But right when I walked in, I noticed it, and my first thought was, well, this can't be that the 16,000th fan, 20,000th fan. I can't be the one who sees this first. But I looked at it and went over and took two pictures comparing the right side and the left side. It was pretty empty for the pregame, and I posted it on Reddit, and I sent it to my wife and said, am I crazy or what? Look at this. And I just sat there for like 5 minutes figuring somebody had to have noticed, but nobody did. And then dumb luck was some fellow was sitting in front of me, and he'd sent a text and was waving to a buddy down there on the court side, sitting in one of the seats. And I struck up a conversation with him. I said, does that guy know anybody down there? Do you see what I see? And I explained it, and he started laughing. He said, there's no way that you saw that. And he looked at it and said, that's totally true, though. And then next thing we know, they had saw the coaches out there with their feet, and then somebody from the Moda Center went out there with the big yellow tape measure. And we were all laughing up there, and I was by that point explaining to people what they were doing, and nobody believed it. Everyone was looking at it thinking, well, oh my gosh, how did you see that? And my question was, how did you guys not see it?
Right.
So,
from your vantage point, you're in the 300 level. Is it? And were you about mid court? Was that what kind of allowed you to have that bird's eye view?
No, I was probably by the free throw line for Texas.
Okay.
So I could see it. It was pretty easy to see that. And then you kind of look over and thinking, well, maybe it's just the perspective. It's a little bit off. But again, I walked over two sections of the seats, and I looked at it dead on as well, and I took another photo, and I said, there's no way. It's not my eyes playing tricks on me. They're just off. And so then I texted my wife, and I told my kids to turn on TV, and they said, well, there's no game. They keep saying it's delayed. And I said, yeah, I think I might have done that.
It's just wild.
I was really worried it was going to be delayed for 2-3 hours, but it was just 15, 20 minutes. So
and I think there's some psychology to this too, because in your job you are trained to kind of look for discrepancy, and you probably have an eye for that. Billboards, when you're passing billboards, do you notice grammatical mistakes on billboards? As a writer, I look for stuff like that, but I guess I just assume they get the court right.
Yeah, that is, for what I do, that is, a big part of it is just keeping track of details, trying to, spot things as a lawyer. You issue spot, and quite frankly, sometimes the hardest thing to do is to see something that's not there. So, for example, a lot of our materials that we prepare and review every day, if you leave a section out, something that's really key, you might not even realize it until you think, oh, wait a minute, I'm not editing this. There's nothing to edit. So it might take a little while to actually go back and realize something's missing. But this was, again, like I said, I'm not a big follower of basketball, but I do know what a three-point line is, and I know they're supposed to be equal. So that was easy to spot.
Right.
If you would have told me they were missing some other marking on the key, I might not know what you're talking about, but this was pretty easy. So
Michael McGrath.
The hard part was just how do we get it out there?
Yeah, Michael McGrath is with us. He practices family law in Oregon and Washington. He is at Gearing, Rackner, and McGrath. I think it's amazing. You go to the game, you see something that nobody else is seeing. Did they give you a thank you? Did they wave at you? I know they weren't happy. The NCAA wasn't happy, but they were embarrassed by it. But did you get any kind of, hey, thanks for seeing that?
No, but I mean, I didn't. To be fair, I didn't actually walk down there. I think I told somebody else. Honestly, it was pretty cool to see, and we're having a chuckle about it. But if I really had to walk down there, I mean, that's kind of a far walk. So I probably would have just kept my mouth shut. Hope somebody else saw it. Well, my wife said, "Well, go talk to a referee." I'm like, "What are they going to do?
Yeah.
They're probably going to slug me because I made all this notoriety for Portland."
Well, and that was part of it. Like, it does. In a weird way, some outsiders are also going, hey, this is a Portland thing. And I'm like, no, it isn't. Portland did a great job with this event. We've come to find out that the error happened at the factory, Connor Sports Factory in Michigan, where they produce the courts and they put they line them and they finish them and then they pack them up and ship them. But still, it was one of those quintessential Portland moments. You're not a big basketball fan. So what did you think of the event in general, and what really drew you to come out to the regional?
Well, it is. I have tickets for the men's in Glendale, and so it's a big event, and it's probably a once in a lifetime thing. Although I know Portland's going to get the women's Final Four in a couple of years, so that'll be pretty cool. But I think overall it was fine. I think in the aftermath, all the fallout of people complaining about, women's sports in general and not getting the same treatment as men's. I mean, I think that is kind of telling. There's no souvenir stands, and the attendance was a little bit lower. But overall, I think that the presentation was great. I think everyone that I talked to at the Moda Center, the ushers and the workers and things like that, everyone was very pleasant, and the fans were certainly very enthusiastic. So it's hard not to get into it, even if you don't know that much about the teams, when everyone else is really hyped up. So that was a nice atmosphere.
Yeah, I think it was great. In 2030, the Final Four will be here, and they should bring you out to eyeball the courts before the games just to make sure everything's right. That should be a commercial.
I think the NCAA should make me like undercover boss, and they should just fly me around and inspect football fields and basketball courts and things like that. That would be a great gig.